Welcome to a brand new season of Human Can Opener. This is season 3, episode 1. Today's episode features Italian game critic Giulia Martino. Giulia is a fantastic writer with features across many publications, including multiplayer.it, finalround.it, and communist paper Il Manifesto. She also co-wrote a book on female representation in games called PlayHer, and takes huge pride in her love for indie games. In this episode, we talk about Giulia's journey to become a writer, some of her favourite indie games to look out for, and of course we discuss Disco Elysium and Studio ZAUM. Make sure to follow Giulia and read her articles by following the links provided in the video description, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Hello, Giulia Martino, my friend and game critic from Italy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, David. And how are you?
I'm very, very well. This is we talked briefly before we started recording it. This is a unique episode.
Yeah, it is.
We've met before, which has not been the case for
in
a
person.
single. I know, like
in
real life. Yeah.
So
and hopefully that means that we don't have any awkwardness or the rest of it. That would be disastrous, and I can't imagine with a cocky Englishman and a typically Italian lady that we'll have any problem there.
No, will never happen.
No. By the way, so we had a Italian friend and colleague of yours, Giacomo, on before, and he told me he was the whole time suppressing his Italian arm waving. Okay, I don't want you to feel like you have to suppress any of that.
Actually, I don't usually wave a lot, but when I'm really angry, I can get like the Germano Mosconi vibe, the angry vibe we were talking about earlier. So people, please check Germano Mosconi on YouTube to know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you really want to understand Italian culture, you need to find that video. Okay. So, Giulia, I had the pleasure of meeting you at Gamescom. Because you are in fact a game critic, and you were there for better reasons than I, freeloading on the back of other people. So I've read a lot of your articles, admittedly not all of them in huge detail, so we can't cover all of them, but you have work on publications such as Il Manifesto and Final Round, I think are the ones that people would instantly recognized. And you were obviously well versed in video games as a passion, and as a game critic in your profession. So I'd like to go back to how young Giulia first actually fell in love with games, and where did that passion first come from?
Well, actually, it was pretty early. I think my first console, but my mom and dad would have to confirm because I don't remember exactly. But I think it was the Game Boy. And it was sparked from my curiosity, actually. At least in Italy, it's far more common for girls, to have the bigger brother or, the dad who lets them play the games. But I was just a very curious girl. And I mean, my mom and dad were really great in that they never restrained my activities based on gender.
Yep.
So I had this huge love for dinosaurs, for example. So I didn't like the Barbies and stuff. And also, the video games.
Yeah.
So the video games were this big thing for me, like starting maybe 4 or 5 years old. And then the PlayStation came and a Game Boy. Well, I think I'm pretty sure about that. My first game for Game Boy was Tetris. And of course, I loved it because you have to play Tetris first. So starting with the basics. And video games since the beginning became this huge family thing because I have a little brother. It's called Antonio. He's a golf teacher. No golf.
No way, is he?
He is. He's really good at his job. And we played games basically always together. I mean, everything, like starting from Final Fantasy or Shadow of the Colossus or the more artsy stuff like Okami, and also medieval. I mean, everything we played together. Sometimes also we played with our dad, especially for Lord of the Rings games.
Nice.
Back in the day, my father was a a literary critic. He was one of the first people in Italy to write about Tolkien back at the end of the 1970s. And yeah, it was really interesting to see how he approached, this completely new way of thinking about fantasy, classical fantasy, but in this very sci-fi medium, as I call it, which is video games. And so, yeah, it was, video games was really a family passion. I mean, it was mostly a passion for me and Antonio, but all the family was involved, and it was really a very nice thing. And they're involved today too. I mean, they all read my stuff, they follow me. Sometimes they come maybe to events. I was in Florence back in March for this very important event I was speaking in with Sam Barlow and very huge, video game people. And I was there too among them. And Antonio, my little brother, came. He stayed with me. He was so proud of his big sister. It was really special. So I'd say, yeah, video games started from me, which is, pretty curious for girls here.
Yep.
As it would be curious maybe to play soccer or other activities, especially back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was from the start a family thing, and it still is. And that's one of the main reasons why I love them.
Yeah. And I have to. So, I mean, first of all, it's lovely to hear that you were given the agency as a child.
Yeah.
Because you hear a lot of stories of that being suppressed,
Sure.
right? And I can't help but notice the connection with your father as a critic.
Yeah.
And now your life. So
it's a
your
very
father,
strong connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it something that you admired about your father growing up? Do you think there was a direct influence? Yeah, just tell us
Definitely.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. It's surely an interesting storyline. My, character arc.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was 9 years old, you remember at the beginning of the 2000s, the Lord of the Rings came out in all theaters, and it was this huge success and this very huge thing. And I mean, knowing that my father had been so involved into bringing the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien to the Italian public back in the day, I mean, I was so proud. It was really the rock star. I mean, I loved him for many other reasons, but yeah, I started thinking, oh, you see, this is really such a smart guy, an intellectual, and I always loved writing. I think it's because of him. I mean, he was so young. I was so well known when he was 18. He started his own magazine, which became really famous, Dimensione Cosmica. And the nice thing, the connection that I found the most beautiful is that when he was young, fantasy literature and also sci-fi literature was also dealing with that, weren't taken seriously in Italy, just like video games today. We still have lots of work to do.
Agreed.
But we want to be there. I mean, I really, I really want to talk to the people and, be a teeny tiny, testament to the fact that the games are art. I mean, so yeah, that's the connection, I think.
Oh, it's lovely. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's I hope my daughter and son grow up thinking that what I do, this nonsense, is cool enough. I mean, I hope they become rocket scientists or something. But if along the way they YouTube their rocket science, great.
No, but 16 hours long interviews are definitely, oh, my father.
Well, I would rather my children spent their time better than that. That was insane. So that's not for everybody.
Too.
Okay, so I mean, you mentioned a few classic games there, and there's the Lord of the Rings collection and Final Fantasy, I think. for people of our generation, I think, sounds like we're about the same age. They were the games, right? And we were very lucky to be at that kind of point where they stopped being for kids, with Nintendo and Sega, and then this new world was being ushered in with PlayStation and people like Kojima turning up, and big budgets, all the rest of it. This is a very long way of saying, what were some of your favorites from when you were growing up, and maybe actually some of your favorites are more recent. What are some of your favorite games?
Well,
Giulia?
actually, starting from the very beginning, when I started thinking, oh, this is my favorite game. So when I was old enough, to think, oh, this is my favorite. Well, me and Antonio loved Final Fantasy X. So still today, which was our very first Final Fantasy. So, I mean, I know you can get really biased when you maybe take a series which has standalone titles like Final Fantasy. I mean, yeah, it's a series, but it's not, this continuing story. Yeah, you can get really biased, but I still think today it was a great game, a great story. It was also a story about family. So yeah. Some years later, Shadow of the Colossus came up. That maybe we'll discuss it again, because actually my very first article was on Shadow of the Colossus. The very first one I wrote to, propose to become a game critic, actually. And so yeah, Shadow of the Colossus was really, really huge. And also Okami, I think they came out in the same period. Maybe it was not the same year, but
all PS2, wasn't it?
But yeah, it was the glorious PS2 consoles. Also, I'm a huge From Software fan. I'm a huge Metroidvania fan. Silksong is coming.
I was going to say, you're going to say Silksong, aren't you?
Yeah. But arriving to the real answer to your question. So what are currently the games I love the most? There are two, and it's Disco Elysium and it's Kentucky Road Zero. And by the way,
wow,
you already knew this because we discussed
Kentucky
Road Zero. So now I'm taking up the hat of the interviewer and I'm asking you, David, did you complete Kentucky Road Zero?
I am some of the way through. It must be. I'm near the end of chapter 2, I think.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that happened to me most recently, actually, because I could be wrong in where I am in the story. Yeah. I just. It's so spoilery. Like everything.
Yeah.
Everything is such a nice surprise in this game.
It is.
I met a big eagle for the first time.
Sure thing.
I can't say much more than that.
No. Yeah. Let's not spoil it to our lovely listeners. Just know that you have to play this game.
Yes.
Okay. I won't discuss it any further. It's for our second podcast, or another moment when I start
a Kentucky Road Zero channel after.
Exactly. I think you'll do that. By the way, I mean, it's got very Disco Elysium style vibes in some things. And especially, I very much connect Kentucky Road Zero to the doomed commercial area in Disco Elysium in my head. But I won't elaborate it any further. Just
I will say one thing. So, I mean, you are one in a growing list of people who say, have you played Kentucky Route Zero yet? For obvious reasons. I think it's very obvious why.
Sure.
And people make that connection. One thing I'll say about it, just, this isn't spoilery, but like when you talk about the vibes and everything, the thing that immediately struck me in the opening of the game was its style, and its audio design, and just the way that, without really telling me much at all about what I was about to do, I was in, and I was like, oh, I don't know what it was. I was hooked in, by all of it, and I'm taking my time with it. I think it's one of those games where you have to be in the mood. I think you need to be like, you sit down and you chill with it and take it in, and because there's obviously a lot of reading, I don't want to be like tired or whatever and
Sure.
not and miss stuff. So yeah, enjoying it so far, and I'll report back when I finish it. That's
Nice.
a promise. Yeah. And I also want to say, and I'm sorry, I'm really taking my role as interviewee here, but
Nice.
way too far
Please
now.
do.
I have to anytime anyone says about Final Fantasy X, I have to back them on it, and it was my fourth Final Fantasy, and it's still my favorite. So
nice to hear.
It's just perfect. I love that game so much. It's the only one that and 7, and actually I'm getting into that thing now where I can't possibly dismiss any of them, but it's the one that I replay the most, I think, out of all of them. Tells a great story about faith, how religion, if you're brought up in a faith focused environment, how that can kind of alter things, and how your worldview could be very different if you go out of that bubble, etc., etc. It's very, very good.
It's good, story. And also, if I may, the characters are just great. I mean, yes. And also really funny, because now I just turned 33, and I remember that Aaron is like 35.
Yeah,
he looked like a 80-year-old man to me. And I was like, oh, this must be how old men look like.
And he's died, so you know. He's 35 and not really alive. Spoilers, but
spoilers, guys.
Yeah. At least we've got that going for us, I suppose, that we're a bit more alive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, no surprise to me that Disco Elysium's in there as well for you, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later, hopefully. Nice. So you mentioned that Shadow of the Colossus was your first article, as such. So where did that come from? Where was the drive to do that? Because, you know, it's one thing to love games and to have an admiration for writing, but it's another to actually make the leap. So just tell me a little bit about how you actually made that jump to writing about it.
Also, it happened in a time everyone remembers, because that first article was published mid-March 2020. So
you were bored.
yeah. So it was a very funny time. No, actually it wasn't. But yeah, it was curious, because it was one of the things I remember more fondly about lockdowns was that I had this exciting new job. And it was such a breath of fresh air for me, because at that point, I was like 2 years in my studies for becoming a notary after taking my law degree. And due to COVID and due to the fact that the exam is like done once every 2 years, if you can believe it, I'm still here. So yeah, actually in Italy, you don't become a notary really soon in your life. Like the medium age, the average age is like 35. So yeah, you can see really still in time maybe to be in the average. But yeah, what happened was that the people I knew, the people I love, my then boyfriend and friends, and of course my little brother, were always telling me, but I mean, we were of course always speaking, talking about games and other stuff, and they were like, but why don't you just write it down, because we think you have something to say. Also, I have a very, as I love to say, I have a very omnivorous diet when it comes to reading. I mean, I'm a huge reader. And
I wouldn't have guessed by the shelves behind you. But
you just couldn't guess. And so, it so happens that connecting the dots, of human knowledge and non-human knowledge, like fungi. So we can also talk about fungi later if you want. Yep. But it's really fascinating and can bring actually something new on the table I didn't really enjoy. Italian game critic. I mean, there were people I read with pleasure, but it was almost always, maybe Manifesto, so communist things, very political stuff, which aren't usually brought up in the mainstream video game media.
Yep.
So yeah, I just, wrote this piece and I sent it to Francesco Fossetti. I've always worked with Francesco because now he's the editor-in-chief with Marco Mottura in Final Round, which is the main outlet I collaborate with, together with the communist newspaper Il Manifesto. And basically, he said, he immediately replied. I just sent it over to his email. So yeah, it was like, okay, I'd like to write articles on games. Very naive. I mean, I didn't have any connection, just, sending he was working with Every Eye at the time. And I loved some of the people who wrote there. So basically that's how I chose the reality to which to, propose and become a game critic. And he basically answered, that's what I'm looking for. And
Nice.
he published the piece, and it was, then I got many other collaborations, and basically maybe it was because of the lockdown, so people were always online reading things, also editors-in-chief, but people started noticing me. And it was basically the last time I had to send an email. Then the email started coming to me. I was really lovely. I mean, without having connections, it was really nice. I mean, I'm not a person who likes to, do like the Germano Mosconi thing. So slam the door and say, "Whoa, people, I'm here and I want to work." So I much prefer if, people are coming to you and asking, why don't you work with me? So yeah, I was really happy. And yeah, it's been 5.5 years now.
Nice. Yeah, that's crazy, actually. That's
yeah.
I forget it's been that long.
Yeah, I know.
It feels like such a black hole of the memory,
know.
doesn't it? COVID, but yeah, I mean, that's another topic for another podcast in a very different time, I imagine.
Sure.
That's really cool. And like, it sounds like it was a calling, it sounds like to me. If other people are saying to you, like, come on, you've got something to say, then
go, mate.
Go right. So it's nice that you were, that people were backing, your opinions and stuff. And it sounds like you had just briefly, if you don't mind, what was the general? Because Shadow of the Colossus is not a 2020 game, of course.
But the remake was.
Was that around that time?
That period, I think maybe 2019. But yeah, so it was in the air. So yeah.
So was it a review piece, or were you?
No. It was just a piece, about Fumito Ueda's, the author, philosophy. I also believe Fumito Ueda's games, the Magic Triad of Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian.
Yep.
Are I didn't write it down, but I'll give this thought to your podcast. Maybe I'll elaborate on that further. Are a huge commentary or a huge maybe antidote to toxic masculinity.
Okay.
I have this thought. I'd like to elaborate on this further, but yeah, I was thinking about this lately. And yeah, I mean, there's such good games. My favorite of the three is Shadow of the Colossus. So that's why I decided to write the piece. But also Eco is so beautiful, and The Last Guardian too. By the way, The Last Guardian was the first PlayStation game I played after a long break from video games I took in my university years. Mainly I wasn't playing video games because I was in college. I had to study. Also, I worked during university. So it was a really challenging time. And I was living in a college where I didn't have a television.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't have a PlayStation, and it was in 2017, and my then boyfriend, now husband, for Christmas he just gifted me a PlayStation 4. It was like, the passion reignited. I mean, the passion was never
It
came
was
out.
dormant.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
it was just the circumstances and context.
Yeah.
So it was a huge joy to like be back with
Yeah.
the Last Guardian.
And you wouldn't have had the pain that many other fans kind of went through if you were kind of ignorant to what was going on in games. You probably weren't like continuously frustrated by the fact that it didn't seem like it was ever coming out. Do you
Yeah,
remember that was the whole thing with
yeah.
Last Guardian, wasn't it? It
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
announced
it was really
years
nice.
ago.
It's like, okay, I'm back, and the game is
Yeah.
already here.
Yeah.
Magic. Yeah,
Very
it's really
lucky.
cool. Yeah,
Very, very
definitely.
lucky. Okay, so like this is a 5.5 year journey.
Yeah.
And we're only part of the way through what I expect will be a journey that continues, Giulia. So I just wonder, what's that journey been like for you from in that 5 years? You know, my impression of you at Gamescom was one of a like seriously established, knows what they're doing person. Like you knew where you were going, you knew what your plan was. The complete opposite of me, basically. And I watched how you navigated your schedule and dealt with people, etc. And I was really kind of genuinely like, that's what I need to be aiming to do next year, right? I genuinely thought that was a standard. So, but you came into it as a novice, and yeah, just I'm waffling, but just tell me about that journey and what that's been like for you.
Well, it's been a beautiful journey. It's also been a journey based on instinct. I mean, also Gamescom was my very first Gamescom.
Oh, really? Was it?
Yes,
You
it
would
was.
never have guessed. Yeah, it was very impressive.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, because I'm a girl who wants to. I told you I want to give the impression that I'm really competent and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm doing. I know my stuff. But even if I don't, I have to give the impression that I do.
Yeah.
So you'll never know. But by the way, yeah, it was huge for me. It was a huge emotion to be there. I mean, I heard about Gamescom since the very beginning, and it looked like this very far away thing removed from me, and it became reality, and it was yeah, really huge emotion. But back on your question, well, it's been, I'd say, a fascinating journey. First of all, every day brings something new on the table, especially since when I realized that I mainly wanted to focus, as you know, on indie games.
Yep.
So, as you know, during the 5 days at Gamescom, I mainly roamed in the 10.2 hall, which was where Giacomo, Glasshouse, and many of the indie games were. Other indie games I discovered were in other halls, so it was not just like the indie confinement in that hall. Actually, they were everywhere, which is very nice to hear. And speaking with some indie devs, I discovered that the space for indie games has gotten bigger and bigger at Gamescom, and I think in the market in general. Diego Sacchetti, the developer of Morkborg, told me he was in 2018 with his last game, The Texarsis, the story of Ray Bibbia, it's called. A very beautiful game, you should check it out. And he told me there were 80 indie games at Gamescom. This year it was more than 200.
That's good.
So yeah, I think it's good. I think there's space in the market, and I love to carve a space in the Italian media as well. I fully know that the linguistic barrier is there. I hate that many. I mean, if I wrote in English, my audience would be bigger. But Italians, as you may know, many people are not that into English. So I feel the responsibility of being like, okay, I should speak Italian first and maybe consider, creating content in English too. But mainly, I want my content, my articles, my videos to be for the Italian public. I think it's a nice thing. Of course, it's not always easy because, indie games don't always get big even amongst, English-speaking audiences. So you can guess that the Italian audience is a very small community.
Yep.
But I want this community to grow, and I want to bring some, political conscience about games. So as you know, I don't shy away from those topics, and we can discuss them later if you want. And the thing that struck me the most, we can also discuss it, it's games, it's video games, because I cover video games, especially from war zones like Ukraine and Palestine, because I found simply astounding, simply incredible that people during wars keep making video games. And I think it's incredibly important. So yeah, that's the thing that struck me the most in this 5.5 years.
Nice. Very, very good. I didn't realize. I'm sure you told me that it was your first Gamescom, and maybe I've just
No, but maybe I didn't. I don't remember telling you. I mean, Giacomo knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we just didn't, discuss it.
Either way, it was a wonderful thing, and lots of the conversations we had were we had a lovely time, didn't we?
Yeah,
it was great.
We did.
And I also found out, and this is so just like it has to. I didn't know where to put it, but I couldn't let this conversation.
It's a funny.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So I also. This is where, for the audience at home, the podcast completely derails because
it does.
Giulia,
you see the madness.
If you notice behind over Giulia's right shoulder, there is a mushroom on the shelf.
Yeah. And
you are
here. It's another mushroom. Actually.
Oh, is there another mushroom? So Giulia, you are a huge fan of mushrooms.
I am.
And this isn't just like, oh yeah, I like mushrooms a lot. I put them in my food or something, or oh, isn't that a cute mushroom from that video game? Like, you're serious mushroom fanatic. So just tell us about your passion for mushrooms. And I think you should also talk about your discovery as well.
Oh yeah, nice. I will. So actually, I'm a proud member of the National Mycological Association. It's called the Associazione Micologica Bresadola. This Bresadola guy was a priest who was a huge, he was a huge mycologist back in the day. I think at the end of the 19th century, in the beginning, of the 20th century, in Italy. So we have lots of mushrooms dedicated to this Bresadola guy. And I'm a proud member of this associations. We are both amateur mycologists like me who don't have a degree in mycology, and also we have professional mycologists. And in mycology, the lovely thing is, like, you don't get very academic often. Very, very often, the best mycologists didn't receive a formal education in biology or mycology, which is pretty curious. And actually, this all started with a book by a British biologist who goes by the name of Merlin Sheldrake. And the book is called Entangled Life in the original English version. I read it in Italian, and it was pretty badly translated, I think, in L'Ordine Nascosto, which means which can be translated to English like the hidden kingdom.
Okay.
Because fungi are not very well known, not very talked about. But yeah, actually the original title is much more pregnant in its entangled life. And it's the reason why I love mushrooms, because mushrooms are basically the thing that keeps the world together. 1/3 of the living matter of the soil is mycelium, which is the actual mushroom. I mean, the mushroom you see, it's like an apple. Okay, it's like a fruit. It's not the whole mushroom. So when you're taking, porcini or other mushrooms, it's just like you're taking an apple. So of course they're not plants; they're their own thing. They're their autonomous kingdom. They're fungi, but very roughly speaking, we can say it's this kind of thing. And also, I read other important books on fungi. For example, The Mushroom at the End of the World by Anna Lovenov-Singh, fantastic anthropologist. I think you played Citizen Sleeper, David.
I have.
Okay, so maybe.
Oh, yes, there's the whole mushroom. Yes.
Yeah, the game is based, and it was confirmed by Garrett Damian Martin, the creator.
Yeah.
It's based on this book, The Mushroom at the End of the World by Anna Lovenov-Singh, by this anthropologist, which is about Matsutake mushrooms. Tricoloma matsutake is the scientific name of the mushroom. So we can also make something about fungi. So we can turn this podcast also on a podcast about fungi. But yeah, not to derail too much. The thing is, mushrooms are, to me, the coolest thing on earth. Sad to say, it's not humans, it's mushrooms. They're completely incredible. When I have some spare time, and for example, these are fantastic days for mushrooms. Autumn is coming up. It's really fantastic. You get to see so many mushrooms, and also my friends love them. 2 days ago, on Sunday, basically, a friend of mine came from Switzerland just to go mushroom hunting with me.
Nice.
So it's a really lovely activity to go, to a park or in the woods. And maybe, the thing I was telling you, I'll tell it just briefly, but maybe, just maybe, I discovered a new type of mushroom. They were doing the DNA right now in Spain to confirm. And to the people who are hearing, they'll be like, whoa, this is incredible. Well, actually, it's not that rare in the community. It might happen because if you study mushrooms closely, well, many times some mushrooms are just overlooked. And they're really mysterious things, basically. They're not things, they're living beings, incredible living beings. Actually, it's estimated by scientists that we have classified just the 5% of mushrooms existing on Earth. So it's not really unlikely. So they're doing the DNA right now, and in some months we'll have a response. So it may be a new mushroom. And I discovered it in a park near my house, really. So it was not like in a remote, mountain top or something.
You weren't like in some cave somewhere.
No. It was like the completely regular thing. I thought it was this very regular mushroom, but they have so many different characteristics. This mushroom tastes funny. Different from the mushroom it was supposed to be. And then we'll see what this mushroom has in store.
So maybe like in, I don't know, whenever you get those results back, I will change the title from the video to Mushroom Pioneer Giulia Martino is.
I do really hope so. It would be so cool, man. I really hope
it really would. Like, I mean, you talk about like this 95% that's like there to be discovered, but it's the same for bugs, right? They reckon, and yet I've never met anyone who discovered a new insect, and you were the first person who I've met could have potentially discovered a new mushroom. So even though like statistically it's probably more likely, it's still incredibly rare, and I think it's
We can
something
write
very
down
cool.
maybe potential mushroom pioneer.
Yeah, there you go. That's a seller. That's a seller right there. No, look, I know that you could talk about mushrooms forever
Yeah.
because you nearly did it at Gamescom. So like it was,
I was like trapping you with my
yeah,
mushroom leather.
maybe one day I'll let you have like 16-hour interview just talking about mushrooms. But
It's really cool. Yeah, it
no,
would be really cool.
thank you for giving me like that little
A
'cause
little
I think
snippet.
it's important to your character. I think it's definitely you. So I didn't want to skip over it. So let's just talk a little bit about the day job, I suppose. So you've written actually like when I went on final round for your articles, you're a busy bee, right? And I know you pride yourself on your relationship with indie games, but actually you are trusted to do some pretty big titles. Like you reviewed Kingdom Come 2, Citizen Sleeper 2, Deltarune, which I haven't played yet, the Oblivion remake. So I do find it interesting that you're trusted to do like these big kind of centerpieces, and also given the freedom to kind of give space to indies. You don't see that a lot with many game publications, I don't think.
Yeah,
So
sure. Yeah.
so credit to you there. And I do just want to kind of touch on the indies more than anything else, because I do think that's where you excel. You have something called Radar, which is like a curation of indies, and you're so well versed in indies that you're able to do these on quite a regular basis throughout the year. So I guess my first question is, again, it comes back to where does the drive come from, I think, Giulia? Like, why indies for you? What makes you so passionate about them? And why is it that you feel like a calling to give them some promo and space?
Well, the answer is very simple, and it's the people. I mean, the people are, they're lovely. And you often have those games which are made maybe by one person or a small team. Recently, I met the Donkin brothers, Rob and John, from they're British, like you, and they're making Strange Antiquities, which will release soon. And at Gamescom, we've had this lovely interview, and it's a family affair, and it fascinates me. But also, it's the individual stories that you get, often without, PRs and big companies. I mean, the stories are just different, and as I told you, they can be stories of struggle, of resistance. And don't get me wrong, I also think that working on a big AAA game can also bring, and often brings, stories of resistance and interesting life stories.
Yep.
Really, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's simply different, and they often manage to bring new things on the table, and often by having this, this creative, maybe punk attitude, like fuck having a publisher. Maybe I'm not interested in making millions, because man, what do you have to do after you have a roof on your head? I mean, that's a thing I simply don't understand, because it goes really beyond me. I just don't get it. So when I find those people who are like, yeah, I just want to make my stuff and make it to the end of the month without becoming a millionaire. So it resonates with me, and these guys and girls are like that, mainly. So yeah, you get a completely different vibe. And yeah, of course, it's also the stories, because you don't get to be a AAA developer in West Bank, for example.
Of course.
So yeah, some situations are like, okay, you either go indie or you go nowhere. So yeah, it's this basically. I mean, we can further elaborate on that, but yeah, the answer is it's the people, actually.
Yeah. And I will just again echo what you said about the people, and this is something I really realized at Gamescom was Let's take Giacomo and Glasshouse just as an
Sure.
example.
Yeah.
He'll be glad that we're bigging him up, but everything that they've achieved so far with Glasshouse was done on zero
Yeah.
pence.
It
Zero,
was.
not a cent was spent towards the time spent on that game. These are people who are, and it's not many people. Like I can't
It's
remember how many.
23.
Is it
Giacomo
23 in
was
total?
telling me, yeah, during our interview, he was telling me like 23. Yeah.
Yeah, and not one of them has taken a paycheck from
Yeah.
Flat 28 Collective. And there are stories like that across all of indie games, right? And I think you touch on something really important about art in general. I've seen people say that art can't possibly escape capitalism, right? Which it can't, because eventually it's going to make money at some point, either posthumous or on release and all the rest of it. And
Yeah.
like, but that's not the point of art. The point of art is the things that you kind of touch on there, like it's a way of communicating in an environment perhaps that you can't, and it's a way of expressing your individuality and your creativity in ways that don't require you to have all of the luxury of like just money and capital and those suits behind it, right? And yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree that the most important thing about that space is the people behind it. And I've not met an indie developer yet that made me think, what an arsehole. They've all been the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's this. Yes. And also it's what drove me during Gamescom. I mean, you saw me. I was like buzzing around, and always playing and making interviews. I mean, you had to literally take me away with force from
Yes. Yeah.
Gamescom because I was so happy. But I want also to say one thing. Many times, indie games don't get the recognition they deserve, and it happens so often. I mean, in 2024, I played some of the best games I ever played in my life, which were Judero, or 1000 Times Resist.
Mhm.
For example, just to give two names from the indie space. But I mean, they didn't go viral. Judero, well, last time I checked, but let me see. Let's see how many reviews. I'll do this right now. It has on Steam. Okay, it has just 264 reviews on Steam. And it's surely one of the best games I've ever played in my life. But usually, if you multiply it per 30, you get the actual number of copies sold. So maybe it's sold a little more than 6,000 copies, which is astoundingly low. I mean,
Yep.
for an
Yep.
author of art like this, at least to me. But then I think, and I always want to bring this message. Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, which I think is the best thing ever written by human hand. Well, it sold a little more than 3,000 copies of his book until his death. And I
Yeah.
mean, it was Moby Dick. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, if I think about that, I get mad every single time. I mean, everyone is always going, oh, Lovecraft, he was this, this genius. He was not understood. But Lovecraft, I don't think is a good example because he can't even wipe the shoes of Herman Melville. And I mean, all due respect, Lovecraft was, I love Lovecraft. But yeah, we're talking about magic here.
Mhm.
Moby Dick is pure magic. And this is the kind of message I want to bring to those devs. I mean, numbers are not the etiquette of success. It's so much more than that. Life is so much more than that. And to a AAA company, it's completely impossible to, tell, oh, guys, but, even if the game was like Concord and it was put out in a week.
God, Concord.
Oh, no, guys, it was still good because many times these games are just a copy of a
Yeah.
copy of a copy. Like, they say in Control. But yeah, sometimes those people are doing true magic, and they often do, and they may be selling just a handful of copies.
Yeah.
But I want to be there. I want to know those stories. I want to look them in the eye, and I want to have an interview with them because yeah, there may be the next Herman Melville in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, Herman Melville in video games would be really important.
I love that. Very beautifully put. And I can't put anything to add to that to make it sound any better. So I'm just going to nod and say, beautifully put, Giulia.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that about Moby Dick, by the way. That's crazy. That is crazy. And I know it happens a lot in art, which is why I kind of mentioned the posthumous thing. It's a real tragedy that so many genius creatives are never around to see the success. But I guess to flip it the other, like, they were never doing it for that. You know what I mean? That's like just to go all the way back to Tolkien. I think, didn't he write those books because he was bored? He was like he was a language expert, right? And he was
I was a university professor.
And it was I see two motivations if you go back to the history. One was just something for his kids, and the other is like he was bored and he just wanted to play around with language, right?
Maybe it was both, or at least from his letters, it looks like it was both. Especially for The Hobbit. It was like this small novel for kids, which by the great, it's really great. I think The Hobbit is sometimes it's a bit downplayed, but I think it's just it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So we've obviously talked quite a bit about Gamescom and your presence at Gamescom. There was a lot you've mentioned that, you know, the growth of titles on display you know, is more than doubled in a few years. How on earth do you prepare for something like Gamescom, Giulia? Do you go there knowing kind of a handful of stuff that you want to go on? Like, how much of it is kind of prepared and how much of it is discovery, I guess, is what I'm interested in knowing.
Well, actually, it was a mix of the two. I worked with a lot of method. I'm a very, very thorough, methodic person. I study a lot, I read a lot, I prepare a lot for things. So basically, on the practical side of things, I just asked a very good friend of mine. She's a translator. She's called Beatrice Ceruti. She works in video games and she was at Gamescom too. I mean, I was like asking, okay, Beatrice, how do I prepare? What do I bring in my backpack? Like very basic things. Will I get really tired? And how hot is Gamescom? So, you know, what I like to call girl stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so like going, very, you know, in particular, in detail on those things. But on the maybe more interesting side for the games, I checked on their website. The Gamescom website was really cool, by the way. They had this area all dedicated to the indies, and also there was also a subdivision by genres. And so I had the opportunity to check more or less the games that were on the show floor and also where they were. So I took some notes about the games that interested in me. And of course, I had some appointments which were like behind closed doors. So the games weren't actually shown on the website. You couldn't know they were there based on the website, but mainly I took some appointments, and then for the games I was interested in, but I didn't contact anyone in advance. I just went there and just chatting and trying the game, and it always went really well. So I was really happy. And on the human side of things, which is the one I care, it was perfect. But I think it was perfect for you as well. I think it was a beautiful experience for the both of us.
It was.
And, you know, it's lovely to make connections just like we did. But but the connections I made were also precious on the, you know, job side of things. Like, okay, I'm playing this thing because I mean, I don't even feel it's my job, but it is. I mean, when I came back, I wrote a lot of, you know, articles. I did a live streaming all dedicated to indie games, 2 hours, answering the questions from the Italian public about all those indies. I recorded like 5 or 6 YouTube videos, which are coming out these days, all about the indies. There were Gamescoms. So, I mean, it was really lovely to connect with the people, to play the games. And yeah, you know, as I told you when I was interviewing Giacomo, when you see the spark in the eyes, or, you know, it's someone you are doing the right question. It also happened with me with some of the questions you asked. When you see when they get emotional, when you about something and you were like, okay, you know, it's delicate, but it's also strong at the same time, and it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Talking to people is amazing. I echo what you say. It was for me like a complete novice. Had really no idea what I was doing, but it didn't really matter. You mentioned, like, am I going to be tired? To anyone who wants to know the answer to that question, yes, you will. It is exhausting. It felt more like work than work, honestly. But there's good time to be had afterwards, and like the day and time when you speak to people, it is beautiful. And it's it was fantastic. So would you have a pick for the best indie that you saw at Gamescom? I have got a question about ones that you've seen this year, but I'm just curious, what excited you when you were at Gamescom in the indie space?
Oh, sure. Actually, the one, weirdly enough, because it doesn't always happen. Sometimes when you have, you know, high expectation on something, then it's a bummer. Like, you're like, oh no, it wasn't so good. But actually, the game I was looking for the most was also my very best in the show. So today also, on the Round 2 YouTube channel, it came out the video made by me on this game, and it's Milizioner. You know, the one
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah. You know it, man. You know it, man. The colossal policeman guy. Yeah. No, I mean, it was excellent. Also, they gave me access to the playtest, as you know.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, it's incredible. Also, the very nice thing is that I met some people, I mean, on the internet, who are also joining the playtest right now. And they were like, okay, I just played it for 10 minutes and then I put it away because I can't wait to be out.
I love
and
a game like that.
don't want to play it anymore. I'm sold. So I just want to have the full game, which I completely respect. But I'm just going back and playing it when I can, when I'm not mushrooming and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's excellent. For those who don't know it, which, by the way, you should definitely go and check it out. It's called Milizioner, and Russian it's Milizonier. But yeah, Milizioner, roughly, maybe we Italians would say it. And it's this immersive sim in a post Soviet Union small town. And you have this colossal policeman that is, you know, up there in the sky, and you just can't unsee it. And the story is so Kafka. I mean, it just opens up and it tells you, okay, you're under arrest, but you don't know why. And you shouldn't escape town. So you're practically sure you should definitely escape town before process, because who wants to go, you know, to court? So yeah, I mean, it's cool. I wouldn't say anything more, except you have to check it. Those guys are really brave. They had the national state-owned television after them.
Oh yes, you're telling me about this. So
Yeah,
just some context. You mentioned that it's Russian, and
yeah,
there are obvious themes of police state
yeah. I
being,
mean, it's
being
like the
yeah,
state looming over you.
yeah.
Yeah, and being very rational and malicious. And yeah, the emotions of the policemen are like everything you should care about.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's pure genius. So I can't
yeah.
wait to be out. It's from a great publisher too. It's called Critical Reflex. The team is called Tall Boys. Critical Reflex published Mouthwashing last year.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a habit of, finding the indie games from the strange side of the tracks, which is nice shit. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I still haven't had the chat, and I'm probably the same as some of those people who played it for 10 minutes. I think it was one of those games where I'd seen the trailer, understood the concept, and was like, I actually don't need to know anything else about it because it's just
yeah.
and aesthetically it also reminds me of Pathologic, weirdly. And I don't know
Yeah.
whether that's just my subconscious again impressing the fact it's come from Russia, and it's like it's not like AAA graphics or anything. It's like
Sure.
quite,
No.
it looks indie, right?
No, but I
But
mean,
yeah,
it also looks beautiful. It's
it
not the
does. It
pixel
does.
art
Yeah.
indie. So yeah. I mean, I like it from an aesthetic standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't mean that to sound like a
Yeah.
criticism.
No,
It was just,
it's
yeah.
okay.
No, I'd highly recommend it as well. Having not even played it, like the idea is enough for me.
You're sold. Nice,
Yeah,
man.
I do like games like that. Okay, and for 2025, as someone who is like the indie girl, what are some of the best released indies that you've seen this year? What do you recommend to people from this year?
Actually, this is a very curious thing. One of the best indie games I've played in 2025 was on the show floor, just right beside Glasshouse, and it was The Darkest Files. Maybe you've seen the boot. It was just on the right.
I'm really guilty. This is at Games for Democracy. Was
Yes,
it at the same stand?
it was. Yes, same stand.
I'm so guilty of only playing 2 games there, and like I stood there for most of the conference and kept thinking I must play that.
No, but this
Yeah.
is not a huge deal because you can go on Steam and just buy the game, because
Oh,
I
amazing.
reviewed
Of course.
it
There you
and
go.
it came out like in March or April maybe. You can find
Okay.
my review on Final Round, by the way. I also made a video review on Round 2, which is
Okay.
the YouTube channel of Final Round. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yep.
And it's about Fritz Bauer, who was this attorney general in Germany back in the 1950s and 60s. And he was actually the first one to prosecute Nazi Germans for Auschwitz, because weirdly enough, during the Nuremberg trial, Auschwitz wasn't really brought up. I mean, there were some lawyers who the genocide, I mean, the term genocide from a legal standpoint was used since 1948, but that, let's not go on the law side of things. So I would get derailed like with fungi. So by the way, this is an investigative video game where you play as Esther Katz, who is another, she's a member of the team of this guy, this Fritz Bauer, who really existed. If you check my review on Final Round, the final photo, the final picture you see in there is one of Fritz Bauer that I really love. He's a guy I really admire, by the way. I mean, it was great to have him for justice, for law in the 20th century. Was really, really important. So this video game is basically investigation and setting up the case from the standpoint of the accusation. So you have to bring in, proof for the trial. You have to convince the jury that you have to identify who's guilty and who's not for those crimes were committed during Nazi Germany. So time has passed and many people wanted to forget. So many people didn't want Fritz Bauer and his legal team to, rummage in the dirt. We're like, okay, but let's forget this. But he did. And the game is really good. It was made in Berlin by this collective, Paint Bucket Games. They don't shy away from very political themes. And aside from the theme, which is really interesting for me, the game is great. So yeah, everyone should play this, The Darkest Files.
Darkest Files, okay.
Yeah. Also, another game came out this year. Well, lots of indie games, of course, lots of lovely indie games, but this one really caught my heart. It's called Despelote.
Okay.
And it's about soccer in Ecuador in 2001.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Ecuador was qualifying for the World Cup. It was the first and I think only qualification for the World Cup. And it's a video game about children playing in the streets and then growing up. And it's just about 2 or 3 hours long. And it's lovely. I think it's one of the best video games that came out in recent years, actually. Also, let's check how many copies Despelote has sold on Steam, approximately. Okay, more than Judoro. Maybe 400 reviews. Nice. So yeah, it was really a lovely, lovely game and people should check it. So,
what did you say it was called again?
Despelote.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. Okay.
Game about soccer and life.
That's a very interesting presentation style they've got going on there. Again, I'll try and splice in like a trailer or something.
Yeah, it would be cool for the people who are looking at the video, interview.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you. I will name my seeing as we're naming favorites. My favorite was in Games for Democracy. Sorry, Giacomo, it wasn't Glass Ace as much as I love Glass Ace. But the game right next to Glass Ace was one called Media Circus.
Yes.
Just ticked all the right boxes for me, like a nice, the quirky presentation with the animals being like people. I know that they were very heavily inspired by BoJack Horseman for that stuff. And you are managing a newspaper, but actually, like, it's got a cute sort of management style to it, right? Where you're actually your paper does actually have to make money, but you are also deciding what kind of paper you are going to be and what kind of influence you're going to have on society. So depending on like how you decide to publish your news stories and send your journalists out, you can like, so I think the demo was focused on, it was a mayoral election was going on, and the two candidates were either like, one was really capitalist and the classic story, right? Yeah. One of them was communist and more environmentally friendly, etc. And you have a choice where you can decide what you're going to do. And I thought it was a really interesting take on how powerful media is, especially in the modern world. Like we see it for what it is now, but it's actually a lot harder to see the media for what it is in these smaller, contained, sort of localized versions of reporting. And I think it's going to be fantastic. Only 3 people, again, coming back to the stories and the people behind this stuff, like it's 3 people and not much else. And yeah, that was one that I thought stood out.
Yeah, but in general, Games for Democracy, they did a great selection. They also had compensation not guaranteed, which was already on my indie radar. And it comes from Southeast Asia. And it's like Papers, Please, but in a kind of fantasy context with also with animals instead of people, which are often used, as a like an Orwell thing, maybe. But
of course,
Yeah, but it's really cool. It's like you have to, I don't know the English word, but you have to, like the state buys your house, it
Yeah.
expropriates, maybe you would say.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's
It
an
sounds right.
expropriation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you have to like decide which houses to expropriate and which not, and you have to do, based on laws and rules which are continuously changing, and they are convoluted and stuff. So yeah, really very please vibes. Uh, Really nice.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful game. I played it during the last Ludonaracon, which is a
Oh yeah.
beautiful festival on Steam about narrative games, and they had it in their selection, which is always really good. So yeah, Games for Democracy, I think they had a really beautiful small selection of games at this Gamescom.
They did. Yeah. I really liked it there. They were
Hmm.
really nice people as well.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so I mean, we nicely segued from uh, some of the more serious topics that you mentioned there with the darkest files. Nicely, I say nicely. These are tough topics.
Yes.
Maybe I should like issue a trigger warning. We're going to discuss some like I don't know how heavy it will get, but maybe it's a sensitive subject for some. But we will talk a little bit about the Ukraine war and the genocide in Gaza. I won't call it anything else. It is
Yes,
genocide.
it is.
So I just first of all, so back in 2023, this is how good my research was, Julia. I went a whole 2 years back for you.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
You wrote a piece on developers in Ukraine and
Yes.
the impact that the war has had on the industry. Again, very reflective, I think, of some of the things you said about people, and some of the challenges that people have to put out their creative juices, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, what motivated you at the time in 2023 to write such a piece? I mean, there weren't many people like even. In fact, I'd probably guess there aren't many articles beyond yours which even focus on this part of the industry. So yeah, just tell me a little bit about your motivations to do that investigative piece.
So this, I don't know, this piece was made up, as you saw, of a series of interviews, and it all began when I use very much itch.io for
Mm-hmm.
discovering indie games. It's a very important site. You can find lots of free games, by the way, and play for free really beautiful games. Well, I was like going around that site, and I simply entered a word which was Ukraine, because I thought, okay, but I'd like to know more about video games in Ukraine. Are they making any video games? Maybe some small teams, or just, single devs. And well, it turns out they did. And I came across a very special game, which is called What's Up in a Kharkiv Bomb Shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what the title says. So the trigger warning was very well deserved for this part of our interview, because this is a very short game that I love you to play. I mean, you, of course, if you still haven't, and our lovely listeners, it's 5 minutes long, and it almost certainly runs on your laptop. So what's up in a Kharkiv bomb shelter? It's made with this free, let's call it engine, this free software. It's called Bitsy.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, like pixel art, small narrative experiences. And it was made by a girl. Her name is Daria Selistchova, and it all started from her, because I played the game. And yeah, I repeat, it's just 5 minutes long, so please go and do that, guys. It's on itch.io and it's free. And the game was made when she was in this bomb shelter in Kharkiv, and it's just her experience. I mean, it's a way to record her experience there, her conversations with the people who were there, what happened. And then I thought, okay, I want to interview these people. And I started really researching on the internet about Ukrainian video game devs. Some of them I knew, of course. They're really famous. For example, the ones of Stalker or Frogwares, who are doing the Sherlock Holmes series. But there are many people like Daria who are not famous. So yeah, I just contacted some of them on Facebook, some of them on Instagram. Some of them I found the emails, and they were really, everyone was so happy to answer me. Daria answered immediately, and she said yes. But then it was like 2 or 3 weeks, and she didn't reply to the written. For this, I sent written questions to get written replies.
Got you.
But
Okay.
I thought it would be best. At the time, there were lots of, electricity outages. I just didn't want to stress them out. And I said, okay, guys, please answer me whenever you can. Whenever you have a moment, you just write it down and send an email, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Daria wasn't replying. I got so worried, actually, that something could have happened to her. So I write that her again, and then she answers, and it's simply put, the most beautiful interview I've gotten in my entire life. I mean, she opened so much to me, and she told me, like, I mean, it's incredible the amount of things she told me about how she was living that war in that difficult place, which was Kharkiv. I mean, she also suffered a lot from the 2014 war. And back then, she was writing poetry. And then today, she changed her medium, and she started she makes video games for a living, or at least she was making video games back then for a living. But she has many hats. She's a very smart girl, does a lot of things. And during this difficult time, it's understandable to, put your feet in some shoes, some different shoes. But yeah, she started making video games also in her free time. And What's Up in a Kharkiv Bomb Shelter? Yeah, she made it with a laptop inside the bomb shelter. She told me she was quite certain she would die, and she wanted to leave a testimony of her life and the people who were there with her. And she chose to do it with a video game, which, I mean, David, if you work in this field like I do, what could there possibly be of more powerful? I mean, she was just telling me, okay, I was sure I'd die, and I made a video game. I mean,
that's, yeah. When you quoted that, well, it makes you. What do you say? What do you say?
It's impossible. I was just, imagine me reading that email.
Yeah.
Reading that reply. And I repeat, it was the last reply I got. It was like 6 or 7 interviews in that article, and they ended up making the article with my comments, etc. But it was the last one I got. And I mean, I absolutely don't believe in God, but I was like, okay, I have a mission that is to bring those stories, to unearth those stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they get hidden under the capitalist rubble, and under the nonsense, under the Call of Duties, under all those things I don't care about.
Which are actually glorifying, in many cases, this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are glorifying this stuff. Yeah, we'll get on this later when we talk about Palestine and Gaza, about Call of Duty, because those things play a huge role into the dehumanization of Middle Eastern people. So video games can be everything. They can be the sickness, they can be the cure. I mean, it's like books, it's just like everything else. But in life, I didn't think I would get to interview a person who would tell me, okay, I thought I was going to die and I made a video game.
Yeah.
This is plainly
Unbelievable.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful. And fair play to you for doing that, because as you rightly point out, a lot of it does get buried and we don't get to see these stories come out. And huge respect to you, Giulia, for highlighting it and going to the trouble to reach out to people like Daria, because it's tough stuff to listen to and it's tough stuff to talk about, but I think it should be talked about and it needs to be listened to far more often. So yeah, huge respect. I can't
Thank you, David.
It was I had the honor of speaking to Anastasia from Twy Games.
Yeah, sure.
Making Hollow Home, and I know that you're way ahead of me on Hollow Home, of course, but there was something really poignant that she'd said to me. I don't know, when you're faced with someone who actually knows what it's like to experience genuine fear and peril on that scale, it's completely different to hearing about it on the news, right? And she said to me, many children in Ukraine had their childhood stolen from them and had to grow up very fast.
Yeah.
And it made me think about it. Like, you hear stories in the UK, privileged UK, it has to be said, by comparison, of kids who had to grow up fast. I don't know, because there are lots of circumstances where I absolutely empathize, but there is nothing quite on the scale of having to grow up and adapt to your own hometown being bombed. Like I think it gets lost in the Western media and the news and the detachment when you've got like several layers of detachment. Like the reporter is the one that's on the ground, then there's a camera, then there's a screen, and then there's the time that elapses between you actually hearing
filter,
Yes.
But video games can get really immediate. Hollow Home is doing it fantastic. I mean, they're still developing it, of course, but the demos I played, they're fantastic. And also, while you were talking, sorry for interrupting, by the way, but I just didn't want this thought to escape, because
yes,
I also did this interview with this developer as a solo dev from Odessa. It's also from Ukraine, of course. Odessa was very heavily bombed throughout these 3 more years of war. He's called Dmitro Denis, and he's developed this lovely puzzle game that is called Oberty. I discovered it because it was, actually, I already knew it, but it was shown at a day of the devs, maybe in 2023, but however, it had some space, luckily. And I was interviewing him, and this thing happens, and I was asking him, okay, man, how are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, yesterday I was like debugging the game with my dog in the corridor of my house. And stupid Giulia asks, but why were you in the corridor?
Yeah.
And Dmitro very kindly replies, oh, it's because it doesn't have windows. And then I fucking get it. It's because of the bombs, man. Because if the bombs comes down, it will shatter the windows, and you'll basically be thrown, glass all around your body. And he also has a dog, so he just wanted to be safe while I was working on the game. And I was like, fuck me. I mean, it was just okay.
The kind of thing that we would never even
we would never even imagine. And sometimes I think I have, I've had some pretty shitty years, and that I had to grow up really fast, but then I am like, forget it. I mean, forget it. Fuck this.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know.
have to like write things down or walk from a corridor with my dog while my city was being bombed. So people, check your privilege.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's why it's so important that these messages get out as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. And again, just huge respect for you doing that. And I will, again, like, you don't shy away from this stuff, Julia, which I think is really impressive. Because there's another article, more recently, actually, for obvious reasons, but you put some focus on, I think this was the same year, actually, 2023, maybe, where you highlighted that there was some really nasty stuff appearing on Google Play Store, like mobile games, which seem to be, I mean, more than glorifying the genocide in Gaza. That there was examples of stuff that kind of made light of the fact, and we see this rhetoric in certain Israeli people already, where there seems to be this kind of justification and joy for what's going on in Gaza, which is disgusting. So yeah, you put some focus on that, and then there was more recently you highlighted a game called Dreams on a Pillow. So my question really is, I mean, like, the media that we are used to seems completely designed to suppress anything coming out of that region around Gaza. Certainly the truth. I was talking to Giacomo about this. I've never seen such a disconnect between the people of the world and the story that they're trying to tell about Gaza. So how on earth do you break through that, and how do you tell the stories that need to be told about that environment?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, of course. But this story, well, it didn't start on itch.io. It started earlier because, as I was telling you at Gamescom, my sister-in-law, she's an incredible woman. She also got a law degree from the same university as I did, Pavia, which is an excellent university for law and medicine, by the way, very famous in Italy. And she's an advocate for human rights for the International Red Cross in Geneva. She's been, she went around the world. She's been doing humanitarian missions in El Salvador, but also Zimbabwe, other countries in Africa. But the thing that stayed with her the most, the mission that stayed with her the most, was the one she did in Gaza. She lived in Gaza before the 7th October. And I have to say, luckily, because as I was telling you at Gamescom, and I'd like to repeat this for the audience, because some things are overlooked by mainstream media. The International Red Cross building where she was living, like 1 month after 7th of October, was mistakenly bombed by Israel and was destroyed, if you can believe this. I mean, an International Red Cross building. Many of my sister-in-law's colleagues were killed during Israeli operations in Gaza. And so you can say, I was pretty, I had my radar on what was happening. And also, I knew, and some years ago, I discovered that back in 2016, a solo dev from West Bank, who's called Rashid Abu Aida, and he made this game, which was called Lila and the Shadows of War. Maybe you can also show it in the video, maybe in the post-production.
Yep.
And it's a game that takes place in Gaza, and it's about a Palestinian family who's trying to run away from what was then, back then, considered, this really horrible thing that happened, which was the Gaza 2014 war. And if I remember correctly, just some hundreds or thousands people died. And now the head count is like 60,000, which is in reality is much higher, as you know. I mean, it's estimated to be much higher. So, and if you can believe this, at the time, Apple refused to put the game in the App Store because it considered Leela and the Shadows of War to be not a game, but a political product. Which I mean, this is preposterous because what's more political than Call of Duty, man?
Yeah.
In the first place. So, and luckily enough, there was this huge mobilization on the then Twitter. People were just outraged. They were like, what are you saying? I mean, it's just this father trying to flee Gaza with her child, and there's no, they're not shooting, they're not doing anything. You just have to try and flee Gaza.
Yeah.
And this is the game. Okay, this is the game. Luckily enough, then Apple had to simply back off this thing and just leave the game on the store. So it was put back on the store. And Rashid didn't stop there. I met Rashid at the end of 2023. I didn't meet him in person, but yeah, I just wanted to hear from him. I wrote to him on Facebook, and he was really happy to be interviewed by me for Italian communist newspaper Il Manifesto. It was like, oh, really? A newspaper wants to interview me? Man, yeah, sure, I want to interview you.
The pleasure is all yours, I'm sure.
Yeah. He lives in Nablus, which is in West Bank, an occupied part of Palestine, and he has huge problems with settlers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So due to this, we did our first interview. It was a written interview, so like with Ukrainian devs. But then during that interview, he was keeping this thing under wraps at the time, but he told me, I'm thinking about a new video game, because my interview was about Leela and the Shadows of War and what was happening. We, at the time, the 7th of October was like this quite fresh thing, you can say.
Yeah.
So, I also, Rashid, in my interview, this is I think I'd like to highlight, it comes to my mind just now. He used the word genocide, and he asked me to keep it in the interview. And it was just 2 months had passed since the 7th of October. So it was still this controversial thing. Mm-hmm. And so I asked the Manifesto, will you let me keep the word genocide? But Il Manifesto has always been, with Palestinian people. And they were like a sure thing. But yeah, Rashid wanted an assurance from me that he could say what he thought, which I think is normal.
Yeah.
But it's completely normal.
How sad is that?
Yeah, it's incredibly sad. But yeah, this is a nice story of a newspaper saying things, controversial things at the time, at least. Now, I know it's more in the open. It's still controversial, of course, and people will shout at you for saying that. But now, things are different, at least. And so he told me, going back to the point, he was thinking about a new video game on the Nakba. So when the Palestinian people in 1948 were, like, okay, go away, here we have the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And it was just a project at the time. And I was like, okay, Rashid, I really hope you make it. Let's keep in touch. You'll always have space here on Il Manifesto, and not only in Il Manifesto, luckily, to tell me about the game and your future projects and blah, blah, blah. Some months passed, and Rashid contacted me again, and he told me, yes, the game is getting real, and it will be called Dreams on a Pillow, with this beautiful female protagonist who's called and it will be, her journey during the very difficult times of the Nakba. The game is stunning. I hope maybe you show a trailer or some images, because they looked incredible. They look incredible. And Rashid launched this Launch Good campaign, because he couldn't do a Kickstarter for legal reasons, because he lives, in occupied land, and there's very.
Is that a similar story to Apple, where Kickstarter are saying, "Oh, well, this is too political"?
Well, actually, he assured me not.
Oh,
He
okay.
simply said that for legal reasons, it would be really complicated to get the money, like,
Right.
on his account, because, weirdly enough, I mean, I don't want to get this wrong, but it's like, for West Bank people, it's like they're citizens of no state, because the state of Palestine is not recognized by many states.
Mm-hmm.
So Kickstarter gives a lot of problems in these cases. So it chose Launch Good, which is this platform, and actually the campaign went really well. So he's developing the game with the team now. And also there's a story about this, because I was put in this group together with much more famous than I, people from the industry, like Rami Ismail, who is still helping a lot Rashid, for launching the game and developing it, and just getting it out in the world. And we were like, just helping with communications, and just doing some nice lobbying, for a nice thing. So I won't shy away from saying this. So it was just this group of people, also journalists from The Guardian, and from basically all over the world. And we were just informed about how things were going, and we were sharing, news on the Launch Good campaign, and just keeping in touch with Rashid. And then a very beautiful thing happened, because a second article came out about Rashid by me, and about Dreams on a Pillow. And that time we did a video interview, which was really lovely, by the way. And I wanted to go back on the Call of Duty thing, because that's another incredible thing I was told during an interview, and it was by Rashid. And he told me, when I was a kid, when he was a kid, of course, this is Rashid speaking. When I was a kid, I used to play Call of Duty, and many Call of Duties are settled in the Middle East. That's why I was saying was more political than Call of Duty before. And Rashid told me I wasn't getting like weird feelings until one day. I think it was for a mission in the game. I don't know which Call of Duty was that, by the way. I should check on the interview, but doesn't matter. Well, one day he had the task, the mission, to kill a person who was called Rashid, just like him. And he told me he was like shooting myself. And then he realized the power of video games on a political standpoint, and on setting a certain image for the West about Middle East, and about the Allah Akbar terrorist thing. Which, I mean, especially in video games from the 2010s, after 2001 was so prevalent,
It was everywhere,
it was everywhere, and I didn't play those games, but I studied them, and of course I read many important books on the topic. For example, Games of Empire, which was a really important book. I think it was from 2007. But highly recommended, Games of Empire. But I'm just blabbering a lot on this because, it left me with a huge impression, thinking about little Rashid playing a game where he had to shoot Rashid.
Where the entire mission is basically wiping out people just like him, right?
Sure.
And it drives it home when you hear your own name.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a very good point, and it's a real injustice in the world that you could probably make as many games as you want about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and no
Yeah.
one would bat an eyelid. Like, and you see the rhetoric in our media where you can say whatever you want about Russia
Yeah.
and the invasion of Ukraine, which I think is a completely unfair reflection on Russian people, because I think it's generated an attitude in a world where literally there will be people who will tell you that if you're Russian, you are evil, right? Which
Yeah.
is just not
Sure.
the case. There's too many, like the maths just don't add up, right? And I've met plenty of Russian people who are beautiful and amazing. Same goes for Ukraine. But there's an attitude amongst the world that seems to be more accepting of Russophobic rhetoric, whereas I mean, I can't look past anything other than like inherent racism when you look at the other side and you have this invasion, this genocide of people in Gaza, in the state of Palestine, and it's taken. I mean, you say it's changed. It's very slowly changing.
Sure.
There are one or two states that have been willing to say genocide, but I look at the UK, for example, and it repulses me, quite frankly, that we don't actually talk about it in the same way that we talk about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We don't act and respond to Israel in the same way that we have responded to Russia. You know, on a political level, we couldn't wait to put sanctions on Russia,
Yeah.
and we couldn't wait to talk about how evil Russia were. But Netanyahu can parade around the place and have his entire cabinet talk in such evil ways about the people of Palestine that, and this is where I go back to the disconnect between the people and the state. I can't work it out. Like, it's so obvious to everybody on the ground in the real world what's happening, and it's completely ignored. So yeah, I guess, I mean, that's that's just my rant about
No. It's a completely. I mean, you know that, of course, that I agree, but from my point of view, it's really interesting what Rashid is doing.
Yeah.
Because as a video game dev, because he's turning the tide. I mean, video games played a very important role in shaping our view of the Middle East and of Middle Eastern people, of Palestinian people, of Arabic people in general, Muslim people. And what he's doing, he's taking this very powerful medium and it's using this to, Dreams on a Pillow, he completely knows it. I mean, he's a very smart guy. He's a software engineer, by the way. But he knows he won't have the resonance and tens of millions of players that Call of Duty has.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, this is what indie games can do, to bring something new, to turn the table and say, yeah, I'll use the same instrument, but with completely different outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all power to Rashid. And
Yeah.
I would just close this off by saying free Palestine and
Yeah.
Slava Ukraini, if I've said
Yes.
that right. Yes, two very powerful topics, Giulia. And I want to just move on now. It feels hard to move on. Like, as we move on,
it is.
like,
It is.
but
hopping around.
it feels so strange to
Ukraine.
go from like this really serious stuff to then be like.
know.
So anyway,
It's life. So is life. Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Disco Elysium shortly, but I just want to talk. You are like, I can't read your book PlayHer because it's only in Italian,
and you didn't have Google to translate.
Well, I wouldn't want to. Like, I honestly wouldn't want to do that to your, like, a book of yours. You can get away with an article, but I wouldn't. A whole book, I think, would be
horrible.
Unfair.
I think.
Yeah. But you've written a book called PlayHer, which has a focus on female representation in video games. So, just tell me a little bit about that. What it is, where the idea came from, all of that good stuff.
Nice. So I wrote it with a very good friend of mine who's a university professor. He's called Francesco Toniolo, and he's this very cool guy who teaches video games at the university, and at very important universities here in Italy. So actually, the very strange thing, be upfront about this book, was that it was ready 3 years ago.
Right.
So it was really difficult to accept it. Well, it was just published in June, and it was really strange for me because the publisher is a really huge publisher who normally doesn't publish books about video games, but about philosophy and other things. But they got interested in our book. I mean, I don't know why, because we don't have any connections with them. But it was really cool. So yeah, they kept delaying it for books that were more like more popular topics. But yeah, I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that in 3 years, of course, I have, I've done a lot of road, and actually I'm impressed about the fact that I managed to write a book that is so complex. I started it like after just 1.5 years. I was writing professionally about video games, and then in 6 months it was finished. So I tried to think about it that way. Don't get me wrong, I'm really proud about that book. I'm really happy. I wrote it with Francesco. The chapters were written separately. So you have the chapters written by me, and then you have the ones written by Francesco. For me, it meant also getting out of the comfort zone of saying, okay, I can get everything checked by Francesco. I mean, he will know what to do. So it was really nice to say, okay, this is my chapter. I have responsibility on this. I mustn't write shit. And it's about characters. For example, I wrote a chapters about Bayonetta, or the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3, or also Shodan from System Shock. So reflecting on AIs and also gendered AIs and the sort. But also, one is curious because it was about female paleontologist in 19th century Great Britain. She was Mary Anning. Maybe you know her.
I don't know. I don't know every British person. That's not.
That's unfortunate because actually, you went to the Natural History Museum in London, I guess.
Yes,
maybe
long time ago. Yeah.
Nice. So there's this corridor which is completely dedicated to Mary Anning's discoveries, and it's the Marine Reptiles Gallery.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of those
penny is
fossils
dropped.
were unearthed by Mary Anning in the flesh in Dorset and what is now called the Jurassic Coast. Yes, the Jurassic Coast. So also a chapter about how Mary Anning, so this female paleontologist, was represented in video games, which is a pretty fascinating thing, by the way. But also one chapter was about the 2 female entrepreneurs of Disco Elysium. So Plaisance, Nika, the dice maker.
Okay.
And so there's also some disco in my book, which
you love the Dune commercial area, right? That's like one of your favorite. Yeah. So what was the? Go on. You carry. I was just going to say what I was going to ask more about Nika and Plaisance and what the themes were there, but I feel like I'm interrupting what you were already.
No. I just had a hiccup, with a connection, so I got your question like very fast. Okay, but on that topic, it was an opportunity to reflect on, female entrepreneurship. In general, entrepreneurship is a field where there's a pretty strong gender imbalance. If you think about the entrepreneur, you think about a man, basically. And but the doomed commercial area, as I was telling you before, was was my favorite place in Disco Elysium, and actually it's my favorite place in video games in general. I mean, it was
Hmm.
so powerful when I discovered that place by ringing, on the
Oh
doorbells.
yeah.
And you get the voices, brought by the pale, but at the beginning you don't know there's this voices that keep repeating, this female voice that keeps calling you.
Tricentennial Electrical, I think the company was called.
It was so, I mean, what's happening? And due to some personal issues, this almost abandoned commercial space resounded a lot with me. So it was really powerful to explore how Playsounds and Niha interpret completely differently the capitalist system and the sheer luck it takes to survive in it.
Yeah.
Because Playsounds interpret it as magic, the magic, the negative, the cacodemons, she calls them, the cacodemons like are in the shop in the doomed commercial area. And Niha is more like, no, it's just a reality we live in.
Yeah.
So she also makes dice, which is a strong symbol, for, I mean, being an entrepreneur means also being subject to the tides of economy, which are increasingly fucked up these days, because basically the 2008 crisis never ended, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really powerful, and also is the one of the topics, but for me it's the main topic actually, and it's no spoiler because you know it from the get-go for Kentucky Route Zero. So these themes are very important to me, and yeah, I just wanted to bring them in my book. So yeah, and also the basic idea was to go back, to the general moral of the book was to, also in academic literature about games, the thing that gets analyzed about female representation is the quantity. How many females are in there? Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a necessary question to ask. But what we wanted to highlight was the quality, which is not this thing is good, but it's like how females are represented. Okay, so it was not how many, it was how. Stop, period. So that was the motive behind the book.
Beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if you agree actually. I mean, first of all, I just want to remark on how beautifully you assessed Niha and the significance of dice and capitalism. And yeah, quite often people in that space are rolling a 1 and get a critical failure, but it takes a 20, doesn't it, to actually get somewhere. And interestingly, Plaisance kind of knows that, but she's not joining the dots. She's relying.
Yeah, she hasn't connected the dots yet, but she's getting there. Yes.
Yeah, and she has a very different kind of way of understanding the bad luck and the good luck that it is for. So yeah, really beautifully put. But I just wanted to also comment on the fact that I don't know if you agree, but I often see an argument said that there's no female representation in games, which I kind of disagree with. Actually, I think there are plenty of iconic characters in video games, and quite a few of them. But you're absolutely right to ask, how were they represented? Because I think if you ask the man on the street about video games, probably one of the first characters they'd arrive to is Lara Croft.
Yeah, sure.
And it's only in recent years that Lara Croft has been portrayed in a more mature way, right?
Yeah,
true. It was the skimpy shorts and the triangle breasts. I love that they made sure to animate, draw in breasts, even in such a limited polygon world as it was in '96 or whatever.
The funny thing, I mean, I was just a 4-year girl, and I just got to see Lara Croft maybe in ads. I didn't play it at the time. I mean, my parents were very careful about what games should we play, and I didn't get to play Call of Duty or shooters or things like that. But the interesting thing is that Lara Croft was very empowering back in the day for many women. And many, for example, many older female game critics here in Italy told me that, yeah, when Lara Croft came out, it was a huge thing for them. I mean, they were really happy with that. Yeah, even with that very, I mean,
it's
stupid
strange,
and
isn't it? Yeah.
sexist representation.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting character nonetheless. And she became this huge symbol, you know, in cinema and in fashion. I mean, it's, again, video games can be pretty much everything for people. And most often there are more sides to a particular character, there are more angles to a particular problem, or to a video game, simply put. So yeah, Lara Croft was also an empowering virtual girl for people. Many things have been written on Lara Croft, by the way, so we decided to leave her out of the book. I mean, in the book you won't find a chapter about Lara Croft. We wanted to focus on characters that weren't so, you know, well known in the video games literature. So yeah, you can maybe say that her place in the discussion, you know, about male gaze in video games and our book has been taken by Bayonetta, who was, like, in recent days, something like Lara Croft, you know, the very sexy witch.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with like this is another thing to your point, and I'm glad to have your perspective. It's glad that we've got both of them, because, you know, obviously I didn't feel empowered by Lara Croft, but it's nice to hear that, you know, that was actually you know, maybe I'm just like a white knight guilty male and going, God, we were so wrong the way we looked at Lara Croft, but I'm completely unaware that
you have to take things in context. And the beautiful thing, you know, of my job, of our job, is listening to people and piecing together, you know, many perspectives. So I mean, I was a little kid, and I mean, Lara Croft wasn't a big thing for me, but for the older girls, maybe the 20 years old, was it was really empowering. They told me.
That's nice. No, it's good. It's good. Okay. Look, I mean, we know full well that you are passionate about Disco Elysium. It's cool that you've included Plaisance and Niho in your book. But you also did a really beautiful piece, and this is how beautiful it was. It made me wish that I'd read Philip K. Dick more recently.
Oh, really?
Like I read Philip K. Dick growing up when I was like late teens.
And what did you read?
I read Scanner Darkly was probably my favorite one. I really liked Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which I know is like the most obvious answer ever, right? So they were the two that I'd read back then. And yeah, your article made me really wish that I'd read more and read it more recently, so I could really understand and ask you about your comparisons. But I knew enough to understand that you were talking about small heroes, people with unassuming roles in the world, and how they can make a huge difference, which I think has been a big theme of a lot of the stuff that we've talked about already.
Yeah, it was.
So just talk to me about what motivated you to write such an article, how it was for you putting that together. And
very briefly, for people who haven't read the article, which was out on Final Round, actually when the Final Round site was launched, or right after, maybe it was like October or November 2023, I don't remember precisely, but yeah, it was around that time, I think. So the thing is, Philip K. Dick, back in the day, wrote this very cool book, which was called The Man in the Iron Castle. And it's a Uchronia, and it imagines, very briefly, that the Nazi Germans have won World War II together with the Japanese, and they are occupying the United States of America, which is an incredibly cool proposition for a book. But the thing is, we have this, I mean, you should read a book, so spoiler ahead, spoiler warning, if you want to read the book before knowing what happens here, I mean, just help the video here. But yeah, the spoiler is that there's this Japanese public employee, pretty high in the hierarchy. I won't go into the nitty gritty of it, but yeah, it's enough for you to know for now. And he just saves a Jew guy from deportation, and he shoots a Nazi. I mean, he doesn't make the revolution, but he just does what he can do.
Yeah.
And this should remind us of another character from Disco Elysium, who's called Kim Kitsuragi. Funnily enough, I know as ZAUM are really huge Philip K. Dick fans. When I joined them on their Discord server for the Project C4 reveal back in March.
Okay.
Nima Shalevi and Sim Cosmos Cinemaya were very keen on revealing that the game would be heavily inspired by Philip K. Dick.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, maybe my connection was correct. But yeah, what Kim Kisaragi does basically, as in my favorite quest from Disco Elysium, which is the moralist quest, is just to tell Harry to basically do his job. I actually, the only thing I got here is a quote from Kim Kitsuragi that I wanted to read. And it's this. It's when you try to contact, the ship, the moralist
Coalition
ship.
warship
Yeah,
Archer.
Coalition warship Archer. And he says, detective, each of us has our part to play in the world. My part is to solve crimes. I am under no illusion that my role is a minor one in the scheme of things, but I embrace it because it's my role and it's yours too, detective, whether you accept it or not. And if you go on the quest, which I did, you just get a game over, sadly, because you're simply kidnapped, by the coalition ship. And the fact is, these two characters, I mean, Tagomi, the one from The Man in the High Castle, and Kim Kitsuragi, are not revolutionaries. They're just making things with what they've got. And they're under no illusion that they'll change the grand scheme of things, just as Kim Kitsuragi beautifully puts in this quote. But they're saying, okay, while we wait for the revolution or while we figure out what to do, we should do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's this doing something that makes all the difference, because you can't sit down comfortably in your chair, like pontificating, going, oh, the world sucks. And I've met a lot of those people. But I think you should get in the nitty gritty of things, and I think that life is compromise, and you'll get entangled in this capitalistic madness, whether you want it or not, unless you're an extremely privileged person by that very system. So yeah, while we figure out how to do the Marxist revolution, I think we can all play a part. And this is the message, I believe. Again, it's not a revolutionary message, but I think it's one of, like, staying, feet on the earth and saying, okay, but what can I do, like, for the people I have around me in a very, practical manner. Like, don't get blabbering around with coalition ships and the sort. It's like sometimes just saving a life, like Tagomi does, or like doing your job like Kim Kitsuragi does. So yeah, that's basically the parallel between those two guys.
What a beautiful message, Giulia. I
Thank
love
you,
that.
David.
And I think it's something that we should all reflect on, especially in this day and age. We've talked a lot about some heavy stuff, and I think quite often we may be guilty of having the attitude of what's the point of it all? What difference can I make? I think about things like climate change, where people often make the argument like, oh, well, that flight's leaving anyway. What difference does it make? Well, actually, like, you might not completely transform the system, but you are doing the little that you can. It's £500 less of your money that goes towards that that damaging cause, or it's X amount of energy that you are taking away from whatever bad thing that you're standing up against. So very beautifully put, and everybody should go and read the article to actually get the full flavor of the message, because it is
I'm
a
afraid
really,
it will be shittily translated by
it'll be, I'm
Google in
afraid,
English. But if
yes,
you're Italian, go and read it.
yeah. Well, what I insist you do is learn Italian,
Oh
become
yeah, it's a beautiful
become fluent in
language.
Italian, and then go and
I think English and Japanese are more beautiful than Italian, which is a very unpopular thing to say by an Italian. But yeah, okay, I'll say this.
like Giacomo says similar things about the English language, and I can't fathom how anybody could come away saying it's beautiful. The only time I've really felt that the English language was beautiful was, and this is such basic bitch film buff stuff here, but have you seen Donnie Darko?
Yes, I did.
When Drew Barrymore's character says the most beautiful combination of words in the English
Cellar
language.
door.
Cellar door.
Yeah,
Yes.
and who said that?
Where's it from?
It's from Tolkien.
Is it really? Oh,
Yeah, it
amazing.
is, man. Yeah, it
Amazing.
was from Tolkien.
And c'est la door, as in C apostrophe EST, la door is to love, I think, in French. So yeah, I like that. And already I've dismissed the beauty of the English language by pointing you towards the French language.
Yeah,
there,
which
so.
I hate. I studied it actually. I also did a French language exam. But yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I do like. I like Italian's beautiful. French I really like, but my favorite language in the world is probably German's my favorite language.
Okay.
Just because it's kind of silly, really, if you break it down. They're very like, they take, I don't know, like 3 things and just put it all into one word, and I really like that. Anyway, back to the point. So you mentioned there that you'd got site of C4, which we now know to be zero parades. I mean, everybody knows my position,
Sure.
but I would like to know what your objective thoughts were on seeing the. I guess you've seen more of it than most. If you had a presentation, what are your thoughts as someone who's quite supportive of some of the causes that have come out of the ZAUM disaster?
Yeah, sure.
What did you think?
No, I mean, I was really perplexed, to say the least, but I was invited and I joined to cover the news, and because I was sincerely interested in what ZAUM had to say. The presentation back then was very brief. As I told you, it was Jim Ashlevi and Sim Cosmos Namae. And it was a nice presentation overall, but mainly it was this brief trailer. I think it went public afterwards. Of course, it was not the Gamescom trailer. I mean, that's a completely different one.
It was the C4 trailer.
Yeah, that sequence of drawings mainly.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So yeah, I figured it would come out, of course, but wasn't sure. Yeah, I didn't know what to think about that. But as I was telling you, they were mainly speaking about the fact that, would be about espionage and also sci-fi. And also I remember at one point they put on a big Philip K. Dick photo.
Okay.
And
So
I was like, okay, you're buying me, guys, because this really is, like one of my favorite writers, and also Ursula Le Guin, and also Stanislav Lem. So yeah, very good inspirations, but of course I'm not sold that easily on projects. So I was just thinking, oh, okay, this can be interesting, but I mean, I have a pretty, I don't know if you can say, a clear opinion on the overall matter, what happened at ZAUM, but I surely don't think well of the ZAUM commanders in chief. I mean, they
Yeah.
don't come up nicely out of the stories we've heard. Also,
Yep.
of course, on our channel, your 16-hour interview with Argo and Dora was really insightful. But yeah, we've also had other testimonies about ZAUM, and they were not that nice. But yeah, then at Gamescom, it was revealed it would be called Zero Parades, and we got to see something more. I mean, surely it's an interesting project. I also heard like a 15 minutes interview with Jim and Shilevi. I think it was done at the IGN booth at Gamescom, but however, it's on YouTube, so everyone can check it out. And some of the things were like the same I heard back in March. So about the inspirations, the Stanislav Lem, Ursula Le Guin, and Philip K. Dick thing. But yeah, something was new. So I guess we'll see. Of course, they were very clear in saying it's not Disco Elysium 2, which I think it's honest from them, at least. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm not, you can't say I'm hyped on this. I'm definitely way more hyped about Summer Eternal and, that our project. So also, it looks like we'll soon have Alexander Gavrilovic in Italy for an event, but I don't want to spoil too much. So yeah, I'll just leave it here.
Yeah, I just touched on a couple of things here. So, I was asked at Gamescom, what am I going to do if it's good?
Oh, okay.
Because obviously people have a certain expectation for me to just shit on ZAUM at every opportunity. This is what I take from what I've seen, at least from C4 and Zero Parade, is, well, that Jim Ash Levy interview on IGN, I couldn't help but notice he doesn't smile once when talking about the project.
Yeah,
and I thought it was really noticeable how little he smiled and had passion for what he was doing. I thought that was really, really strange. And I know that I'm guilty of having a certain lens for this stuff. That, like, I'm not going to pretend that I don't have biases, and I probably see things a certain way. But I'll just read you the description from the Zero Parade's Steam page. Brilliant, burnt out, possibly cursed. You play as an operant, Herschel Wilk, alias Cascade. 5 years ago, which I think is, again, there's lots of subtle messaging. 5 years ago, you led your team into the abyss and have been haunted by your failures ever since.
Yeah.
Now you've been recalled for a mysterious assignment to give you a chance to prove yourself again. Find yourself thrown into a freeway struggle for culture and ideological power. I mean, I won't keep going on. To get anywhere in this world, you'll need friends. Unfortunately, you don't have any. Blah, 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 blah. And I can't help, again, I'll remind people of my biased lens. This sounds almost like a guilt-driven apology for everything that has happened in that studio, from writers perhaps creating Zero Parades. Everything in the messaging, everything in the way they talk about it, I'm like, that sounds a lot like some of the stuff that may have happened in the studio. And this is where I get like kind of torn on it, because I completely acknowledge that. And to be fair to Dora and Argo, they talk a lot about how these people are victims of abuse, right?
No,
and they are, from my point of view, trapped. And maybe this is their only way of communicating safely their real feelings. And so to kind of come back to the answer to the question, what am I going to do if it's good? If they effectively communicate a message which feels poignant and important and reflective of some of the stuff that's happened at ZAUM, then they will get my utmost respect. I fear it's likely to be anything but. I don't know what the quality of the writing is likely to be. But certainly there seems to be themes there which are definitely drawing from experience in that studio, which I find at least fascinating. But I don't know, man. It just feels like the likelihood that we'll get something good is
No, but at least, well, in my job, I don't care about good things. I care about interesting stories,
mm,
actually,
yeah,
which is a different point of view. And this is a really interesting story. I mean, it's a studio that continues to be haunted by its past way more than other studios and companies in the video game world. I mean, they'll be forever like doomed by Disco Elysium if you think about that. I mean, it's this, yeah, it's this cacodemon for them.
yeah,
Actually, it's this magical force. I mean, one of the best reviewed games of all time and a resounding success. I mean, a milestone in video game history. I don't use those words lightly. I think it's a true milestone. And how do you escape this? You simply can't. And
yeah,
I find it incredibly fascinating because the moment it will be out, I will surely cover it because it's an interesting story. This goes beyond the fact that the game will be good or bad, which I find incredibly challenging
yeah,
to say, and also not very important. I mean, I want to know, is this video game important? I mean, I think that yes, a little game, What's Up in a Cookie Bomb Shelter, is an incredibly important game. But
yeah,
also Call of Duty is an important game, even if it did a lot of harm, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
So yeah, it's those stories I want to analyze.
yeah.
So it would be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think regardless, it's I think you're absolutely right. It's impossible to ignore. I have like a certain weird level of admiration for the resilience actually of Zane because
Yeah,
as like I have no idea how they have the stomach to do a social media post ever.
yeah, sure.
I don't know how Jim
I
Ashlevy has
wouldn't have the courage of showing up, and doing that interview. So he was
no.
saying, he's never smiling. But I think me personally, we should just, cried or said, okay, guys,
Yeah,
no,
I
I
mean,
don't do this.
do you think they ask for certain questions not to be broached because IGN and
Okay.
GameSpot
Yeah.
have all ignored the elephant in the room and talked about the game, right?
Well, actually, what I can say is that during the March presentation, we didn't have a slot for, questions from the
Mm,
press. So it was just, unilateral thing.
mm,
And it was just them talking and then say, okay, guys, we're done. So I think this speaks a lot. Of course, to be fair, I've never tried to interview them because I think they would be so bound by, the company and legal obligations. I mean, I don't think Jim Levy would have a nice, relaxed chat,
yeah, this is the thing.
I
Like,
mean, the people in general. I'm just saying Jim Levy just to,
well, he's becoming the face, so
yeah, just
yeah,
to, yeah, like I would say maybe Hideo Kojima, just
yeah,
the face, and then you have those many people working on a project, of course, which I acknowledge, by the way. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of the reasons why, of course, I prefer when there are less people involved, or maybe there's not a huge company
yeah,
beside them or above them.
telling them what they can and can't say. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
And information control is
Yeah.
huge at Zame, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even like you'd think by now that I would have emailed them and said, can you provide comment? But I don't because I know what I'll be met with. It'll be
No, but
resistance and
also, I mean, you always say in your videos, in your interviews, I want to give the same platform to.
I did.
I mean, you always do that. Huge respect for that. But yeah, I mean, uh, there would be no point, I guess.
Yeah.
It would be, maybe insincere.
Well, I think about their responses on the PMG documentary, the more recent
Yeah. Oh,
revisit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're
The
very
last one. Yeah.
completely
Mm-mm-mm.
sanitized responses with not much basis in in reality, sadly. And that's, I think, like, do I really want to email Ed Tomaszewski and get a load
Sure.
of corporate waffle? Not really.
Sure.
So yeah. Okay. I mean, we kind of covered where we think our thoughts are on all of this stuff. So I will just ask you one final question, Julia, and it has been an amazing conversation, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But we'll usher ourselves now into a positive finale. There are obviously lots of people vying for the title of best disco-like or successor, and games that have taken inspiration, and there are a lot of them now. And you are someone who understands the indie space where a lot of these games are coming from. Not all of them. There are some that are backed by big publishers like Rue Valley. I know is Owlcat and all the rest of it. But go on, tell me where you're stamping your flag. What are your hopes for the world of video games after Disco Elysium, and where do you think we will see the best examples of disco-like games?
Well, actually, the space is getting really packed. I mean, in a very beautiful way. I reckon that, for example, Rue Valley is coming up in November. I think it's very near. Yeah. Of course, I'll cover that. And also during Gamescom, except for Glass House, of course. By the way, my piece on Glass House is coming, I think, this week or maybe next week. So yeah, we have coverage coming for Glass House. Giacomo, we had a lovely interview, which you couldn't understand. But
no, but I was there.
You were there. So yeah, learning Italian. Also, during Gamescom, I got to play Esoteric Hub at the Raw Fury stand. I think you interviewed the creator of Esoteric Hub on this podcast, but I still have to listen to the episode. I surely do, because I love the demo. And the guys at Raw Fury, actually it was girls, they were really nice. Surely I'll cover that too. And there's also this thing which is very funny for us Italians. I think you know it. It's called Peracoda.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because, okay, here we do a little Italian. So Peracoda in Italian means pera is pear, the fruit. Yeah. And coda, it's the tail of an animal. Okay, like pear a rat's tail. Yeah, or a cat's tail. So it's like Peracoda, it's like putting two different Italian words, which are like, why are they together? So it's a very strange feeling for us Italians reading about Peracoda.
Is it an Italian game? Is this like a misunderstanding?
I don't know, but I don't think they're Italians, actually. Okay. So I don't know why it's called that way, but I can't wait to discover it because it seems really interesting. But I think the projects I'm interested in the most are, well, I still don't know what they're doing, but as Summer Eternal, they're caring not about what they'll be making, but also how they will be making it, which is also what Giacomo with Glass House is doing with the collective stuff. The interesting thing is that at Summer Eternal, they chose, from a legal standpoint, to be a cooperative, which is something you don't get to see often, especially in video games. Here in Italy, cooperatives, for example, there are some big cooperatives, which are mainly the supermarkets. For example, we have some very big cooperatives of supermarkets like Coop or Conad. And
what, Co-op exists in Italy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, we've got Co-op here. That's amazing.
Nice. but yeah, so we use cooperatives also for other things, but they're an underutilized form of existence for, enterprises here in Italy in some fields, including video games. And I can't wait to see what they have in store. So because we haven't discussed it in this interview, but yeah, we said it briefly before, but since I'm starting to become a notary, I'm really interested in how you can structure, the enterprise in very,
Mm.
very radically different way. That can also be relevant, on a social standpoint. I mean, a cooperative is owned by workers, which is a very beautiful thing. Of course, it's not perfect. I wish there was a world in which we don't have to care about money or enterprise and something like that. But again, with the Kim Kitsuragi and the Tagomi, I'll go this way and say we have to do for now with the best that we have.
Yep.
And I think that, from a social, economic, and moral standpoint, cooperatives are really interesting. So it's not important just only to see what a game is about. It's also really important, and maybe it's the most important thing, how a video game is made. So in this case, by a cooperative of workers, or by Daria just standing with her laptop in a bomb shelter. I mean, it's the stories that matter, how video games are made, what video games are made for, what's the human, objective of a game, why are you doing that? It's those stories I care the most.
Beautiful. And yeah, just there's something I'd love everything that you've said about people and why you focus on this stuff with games. It's been amazing to hear you talk about it so passionately for the last 2 hours. Just one remark on Summer Eternal in particular. I think the interesting thing about Summer Eternal and being a co-op is lots of co-ops are very small and don't really kind of bubble to the surface of the mainstream conversation. What's interesting about Summer Eternal is it's something that's come out of the ashes of a very, very capitalist story, which is what's happened at ZAUM and the dangers of that system. And I think it could be a huge shifting of the needle, or at least a huge step for people actually understanding and seeing the benefits of such a system. If, of course, they succeed and they make a great game. They've obviously got to do that and be part of the conversation, I think, ultimately. But everything about the people behind it, the people I've spoken to at Summer Eternal, I've got no reason to think that they will be anything other than a huge success. And it will be interesting, when we start talking about the story, how much that actually lands and makes people go, actually, yeah, things can be done a different way. And I expect you will be the first to report on any such story. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yes. And just take the opportunity now. So thank you very much for talking to me, Giulia.
Thank you, David, for having me. I mean, it's been so lovely. Just 2.5 hours went by.
I know
so
we could have done
easy.
it forever, really.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. So just remind everybody where your articles and publications can be read, Giulia.
Oh, sure thing. First of all, you can contact me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is gamerjurista. So you can easily find me there. And also you can read my articles on the Italian communist newspaper Il Manifesto. They are also available for free online. You just have to register on the website, but they're free. And then mainly I write and create videos for Final Round and Round 2. Of course, if you Google Giulia Martino video games, you'll also discover that I've collaborated with other media outlets during those quite brief years. But yeah, I'm a busy bird. I like REI and multiplayer. And by the way, on multiplayer was the place where the Ukraine reportage, you can say, came out. So yeah, I'm in really good terms with all the realities I've collaborated with. I mean, they're really cool guys and girls. But yeah, now I'm with Il Manifesto and Round 2, and you also can check out my book, of course, if you read Italian. So it's called PlayHer, and it's published by Edizioni Tlon. And then we'll be seeing each other in the future. I can't wait to hear from you. Please write to me, guys. I'm a very, I love speaking to people. So yeah.
Thank you, Giulia, and I can vouch for that. You are a very warm, open, and welcome person. So don't be afraid. Get in touch and speak to Giulia. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be at conferences and stuff together in the future. So
Sure thing.
it won't be the
Please
last
come
time.
back here.
Yes.
I mean, you haven't come to Italy at least, but yeah, we're inviting you. I mean, me and Giacomo will be waiting for you. I know I can.
I promised I
something too.
will visit the
Yeah.
Reuter and soak up the Italian countryside
Yeah.
at some point. So yeah.
Nice.
Okay, well, thank you to everyone who stuck with us for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you on another episode of Human Can Opener soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.